Sit down. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great to be back in Central Florida. Thanks so much. It's a beautiful day, and we've got a pretty important announcement to announce the appointment of Florida's next United States Senator. And these are always significant appointments, but I think right now, appointments like these are more significant than ever. This is a time for action and a time for Washington, D.C. to deliver results to the American people. There are no more excuses for Republicans. We can't choose the easy path here. We must be able to do what it takes, make the hard decisions necessary to usher in a revival of the American experiment. Now, President Trump's election was remarkable, and he earned a mandate for change. And yes, the results themselves, winning the popular vote, winning the swing states, was certainly something that's noteworthy. But what was more noteworthy is no candidate has ever had to endure a flurry of bogus prosecutions and 2 assassination attempts and having the entire legacy media apparatus doing everything they can to prevent his return to office. So we as Republicans cannot squander this opportunity. And that means we need a Congress, both the House and the Senate, that will rise to the occasion and make history. No more business as usual in Washington, D.C. Now, of all the issues that the American people rendered a verdict on, there's perhaps no issue that's been more significant over these past 4 years than immigration and the open southern border. The American people do not want to have our borders opened. We are a sovereign nation, and we must control who comes into our country on the terms that we as Americans set. That means we not only need to support President Trump's agenda to secure and shut the border, but we also need to make sure that we're enforcing the laws inside the United States. We've called a special session of the Florida legislature because Florida is going to be working with the Trump administration to make sure our immigration laws are enforced. I don't want to see some illegal alien gang just be able to operate and then you only do anything once they've already committed serious crimes. Identify them and get them out of the country. We must make illegal immigration illegal once again. The other issue that clearly animated voters' momentous decision in November is the economic crunch facing people all across the United States of America. This economic crunch is government-induced. We are currently now, thanks to federal policies, locked in a vicious cycle of deficits, debt, money printing, and crushing inflation. We need Republicans in the Congress to stop this spending spree once and for all. Downsize the federal government, eliminate wasteful programs, abolish certain agencies, and empower the states to take over the functions that our founding fathers originally intended. Florida has shown that this can be done. We have cut taxes every year since I've been governor. I have had the opportunity to veto billions and billions of dollars in wasteful spending, and we have paid down 36% of the state's historical debt. From the 1840s to the present, we've paid down 36% just since 2019, and it's not an accident that because of those policies, since I took office in 2019, Florida leads the nation in economic growth amongst all 50 states. We've shown it can be done. They need to get it done. We also have a mandate as Republicans to restore our constitutional order. Our founding fathers never intended there to be a fourth branch of government, this sprawling administrative permanent bureaucracy. We cannot tolerate a massive concentration of power that is unaccountable to the American people. We must reconstitutionalize this federal government. We also understand the role that the courts, particularly Supreme Court justices, play in enforcing the Constitution, and particularly the constitutional limits on federal power. We need a senator that understands the important role that Senate plays in confirming Supreme Court appointments as well as lower courts. And the model for justices need to be justices like Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. Finally, Republicans must fight the woke agenda and they must defeat the radical left. Florida has fought and won against the woke agenda. We have won time and time again against the political left, and right now the Democratic Party in this state lies in ruins, and we are a solid Republican state, which people didn't think was possible even 5 years ago. At the national level, we need to rid our institutions, federal agencies, universities, corporations, of the pernicious woke ideology and woke agenda. We need to restore common sense, and we need to restore basic American principles throughout our society once again. Now, in appointing a U.S. Senator, I initially put out several different criteria. One, I want somebody that's going to work with President Trump to deliver on the mandate he earned from the American people. I want a senator that's going to be willing to lean in against the excessive spending and cut spending and stop the inflation. I want somebody that understands that the federal bureaucracy is run amok and it must be held to account, and we need 3 branches of government, not 4 branches of government. And we need somebody that understands the fight against illegal immigration, is willing to shut the border, and importantly, make sure any legal immigration to this country is putting Americans first. Can't be bringing foreigners in to displace our own people in key positions. So this is something that I thought about long and hard. We did a lot of research. We got a number of great candidates throughout the state of Florida, and many of them, I think, could have done a good job. But the final criteria I used was, because you can say all those things and say you stand for it, I wanted somebody with a demonstrated record of delivering results on those important issues. Talk is cheap. We need people that have demonstrated fidelity to these principles with their actions. So that is why today I'm proud to announce that I am selecting our Attorney General, Ashley Moody, to serve as our next U.S. Senator. So, So, many of you know her. She's obviously been on the ballot twice statewide and won big victories. She's honorably served our people as her time as Attorney General over these last 6 years. She's a 5th-generation native of Plant City, Florida, in the Tampa Bay area, and even was named queen of the famous Strawberry Festival back in her youth. She's a triple Gator graduate of the University of Florida, and she's built an impressive resume as a commercial litigator and as a federal prosecutor. When she was an assistant U.S. attorney here in the Middle District of Florida, she handled gun and fraud cases. Later, when she was in the Tampa Narcotics Division, she was recognized for her prosecutorial excellence by federal agencies. In 2007, she became Florida's youngest circuit court judge at the tender age of 31, where she championed initiatives for at-risk children and expanded access to legal representation for vulnerable Floridians. And that's all great, but really where the rubber hits the road is once you get an opportunity to serve statewide in the state of Florida and be the Attorney General, are you just biding your time, or are you making the most of it to deliver big things for the people that sent you there? And I'm happy to say we've had an Attorney General who has been somebody that has acted time and time again to support the values that we all share, whether that's illegal immigration, opioid and fentanyl crisis, human trafficking. She has stood strong time and time again. Most recently in this past year, filing lawsuits and joining lawsuits to take on the weaponization of law enforcement that targeted then candidate Donald Trump. She took on Jack Smith for his politically motivated persecution of the former president, fought back against the rogue Attorney General of New York for her politicizing justice, led the Florida investigation into the second Trump assassination attempt in Palm Beach, even as the federal government continues to try to block her efforts. She's been a national leader in fighting the Biden administration on many different fronts, including on immigration. She's not only filed more than a dozen separate lawsuits, but she's actually won against Biden with his reckless border policies. She's demanded appropriately the impeachment of Alexander Mayorkas and the designation of Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. In her role as AG, she has stood strong for law and order. She believes in putting criminals in jail, not releasing them back onto the street where they will offend again. She does not support soft on crime leftist prosecutors. In fact, we have removed prosecutors here in the state of Florida, and she has stood with us every step of the way, and we have won those lawsuits as a result of her efforts. She's also rejected DEI, ESG, gender ideology, and supported our efforts to ensure Florida's education is free from impositions of the radical left. When COVID was raging, few were willing to stand up across this country. We in Florida established our state as a beachhead of liberty, as the free state of Florida, and she was with us every step of the way. We beat the Biden administration that had continued to keep our cruise lines closed, and we liberated the cruise industry because of her lawsuit. We also beat Biden on the employer vaccine mRNA mandate, which was going to have people lose their jobs if they didn't take this shot that many people didn't want. So her efforts were really critical in achieving those success for medical freedom. She was also a staunch opponent and helped us defeat Amendments 3 and 4 in the most recent November election. She sued in the Supreme Court against Harvard's race-based affirmative action discrimination admission process. She sued Biden administration to prevent brutal transgender surgeries on these minor kids. And she challenged the federal accreditor system to free university from politicized leftist accreditors. She's also fought to strengthen the security integrity of our elections here in the state of Florida, which we treat very significant. She has led prosecutions of voter fraud cases against illegal aliens who voted here in the state of Florida. She's also supported other states as they attempt to secure their election systems, including in Virginia, where she urged the Supreme Court to uphold their removal of illegal aliens from the voter rolls. When it was revealed that FEMA aid workers under President Biden discriminated against Trump supporters who were impacted by last year's hurricanes here in Florida, she filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against those who were responsible, and Florida still remains the first and only state to hold these people accountable for their political discrimination. She's an outspoken proponent of the state of Israel and has battled against anti-Semitism in the business world, academia, and even taken on the United Nations, which she has pledged as a senator to defund once and for all. She has fought against overreaching federal agencies like the ATF, the EPA, and the FDA to protect the rights of law-abiding Americans and to prevent bureaucratic entities from encroaching on our God-given freedoms. And then when it comes to our nation's foremost adversary, China, Ashley has been integral in our state's effort to defend Florida against Chinese influence. She defended our laws preventing China from purchasing land in the state of Florida. She worked with the Florida Pension Fund to divest state holdings from China and Chinese companies, and she opposed China's ability to spy on Americans through the use of social media apps. So in every major battle we have had since I have been governor, she has been with us every step of the way. It's not just talk, it's results. And these results are very, very important. And she understands the gravity of the moment. We may not have an opportunity like this in the near future. This is a once in a decade, maybe even once in a generation opportunity in this current Congress is ultimately going to determine whether we do usher in that revival of the American experiment, or is it just going to be status quo, passing the buck, and nothing ever changes? So